Hi, I'm Chad with Move for a Guitar. This lesson is from our series, How to Read Music for a Guitar. In this lesson, I'm going to explain bar lines and bars. First off, if you like all the diagrams for this series, including the diagrams for this lesson, you can download our free e-guide, How to Read Music for a Guitar. But I am working on it right now as I'm filming this lesson, so it might not be available as you're watching this lesson. If it is available, a link will pop up on the screen that'll allow you to download it. And like I said, it's free, so there's no reason not to download it when it is available. This is part 11 from our series, How to Read Music for a Guitar. If you'd like to go back and start at the beginning, you can click the link on the screen. So up to this point, we've looked at notes written out like this, where there's just a whole bunch of notes on ledger lines or in the staff, and everything is just horizontal lines. But that's not how music is written. Music uses something called bar lines to separate out different spaces, and those spaces within those bar lines are called either bars or measures. It means the exact same thing, so it can be a bar or a measure, which would look something like this. You have your horizontal lines for your staff, just like normal, but now you have vertical lines that are separating out different parts of your staff, and within those vertical lines are what are known as bars. And they're also known as measures. It means the exact same thing. You can call them bars, you can call them measures. So for example, this would be your first measure, this would be your second measure, this would be your third measure, this would be your fourth measure. And bars are extremely important for making music easier to read, for understanding where your beat is, which we'll talk more about that later, and also making it easier to know where you are in a piece, because if you have a piece of music, it doesn't take too many measures to get lost or too many notes. You need to have measures or bars that you can count and actually know where you are. And we'll talk more about counting and how you actually count notes and beats in an upcoming lesson. And I'm sure you've heard of something called the 12-bar blues. And that's because it's the most common form of the blues, and the blues is really common in Western music. Hear it all the time in lots of different songs. And it's called the 12-bar blues because it has 12 bars that just repeat over and over again until someone decides that it's time to stop. And right here I've drawn 4 bars, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4. But obviously a 12-bar blues would have 3 more sets of these, and that would be the form of the song, like I said, that you just keep repeating over and over. Or in jazz, it's really common to have a song form that is 32 bars. And it's just a way to organize your music and make it easier to read and follow. And in most music, inside these bars, inside these measures, the note values that you get equal each other. So really you would have numbers right here telling you what these note values are going to equal with the time signature, which I'm going to talk about in an upcoming lesson. But in these measures, when you have that time signature telling you what's going to be in here, all the measures are going to be the same unless there's another time signature specifying otherwise inside a new bar. But for example, it could look like this. And this is in common time. I didn't write the time signature out because we're going to talk about that in the next lesson. But all these note values actually equal the same, which in common time equals 4 quarter notes or 1 whole note. So this one, for example, has 1, 2 quarter notes, but then a half note, which equals 2 more quarter notes. So that's 4 quarter notes or 1 whole note. This one has a half note, which is 2 quarter notes, and then an eighth note, which is 1 quarter note. 2 eighth notes equal a quarter note, and then another quarter note. So that's 4 quarter note. This one has a quarter note, 4 16th notes, which equals a quarter note, and then 2 more quarter notes. So that equals 4 quarter notes. And this is a whole note, which equals 4 quarter notes, or it's just a whole note. So all these note values equal the same in each one of these bars. And like I said, it would do that through the whole song unless one of these bars had another time signature representing that that was going to change. But in most songs, it stays the same through the whole song, or at least most of the song. So now if you're playing this, you play these 3 notes, which equals 4 quarter notes in time, then you would be on to bar 2, so you'd know that you're on the second bar. And you'd play these notes, and once you're done, you're on to bar 3. Now you know you're on bar 3, and so on. And when you hit a bar line, you don't pause. There's no pause or anything. It would be just like they weren't there, but it's separating them out to make it easier to read and know quickly where your beat's landing on these notes. And so those are your most basic bar line, just a single line like this. But there are other types of bar lines. There's a double bar line that's just taking one of these singles and making it into 2. That represents the end of some sort of section in a piece of music. Or there's this, where there's one of these bar lines, but then a thick one at the end, that represents the end of a piece of music. And there's other types of bar lines, but these are the most important to understand for now. And especially just a single bar line, that's something you're always going to run across, and you're going to run across early on. And one thing I want to point out that I didn't mention when I was talking about note values, but since it's written here, I'll point it out. The stems on your notes can go either direction. So for example, with this one, it's on the right, but with this one, it's on the left and going down. So the one that's on the right is going up, the one that's on the left is going down. And it doesn't matter which way that stem is. The reason the stem is like that is to keep this cleaner, because if this stem was all the way up here, it would be way out in this space, which could interrupt some other parts of the music and make it hard to read, make it really messy. So that's why when a note is higher like this, you're usually going to see the stem going down. But when a note's lower down, you're usually going to see it going up. So I just want to point that out. That is something that you're going to run across, and I don't want you to get confused. These are still, for example, these two notes right here are the same value, and these are eighth notes. It's just these stems are going down, and they're beamed down here instead of up above like I showed you in the previous lesson. So that's an explanation of bar lines and bars. Go ahead and move on to the next lesson where I'm going to explain time signatures. And be sure to download the e-guide. All the diagrams are in there. And be sure to subscribe because we had at least one new lesson every day.